עכשיו נכבד את הרב רבי יעקב שפירא, דובר היהדות החרדית בארצות הברית, שיביא את דבר המערכה לעולם כולו. הרב ידבר בשפה האנגלית.
Choshev Rabbonim, Torah Yidden, members of the press, friends, and enemies. We've come together this evening because the homeland of the Jewish people is under attack. Some use violence and other enemies use deception. But the homeland of the Jewish nation is currently surrounded by enemies who would see it destroyed. We're here to defend the homeland and to protect it from those who seek its destruction. The homeland of the Jewish people is the Torah HaKadoshah, the eternal book of books. Jews have no national state, for unlike other nations who exist because of their land, their common language, or their culture, the Jewish people came into existence and only exist because they accepted their religion on Har Sinai in the desert. In the desert where we had no land, where we had no territory, in the desert where we had no state. Hayom hazeh niyesa la'om. The Torah HaKadosh is our homeland. In every successive generation, Jews strove to maintain the integrity of the homeland which accompanied us into every territory that we lived during our exile. So long as we remained within the confines of our homeland, we were protected from our enemies. The world wonders how the Jewish people survived for 2,000 years in exile, with no political infrastructure, no army, no common language, land, or culture. But we don't wonder. We know why we survived. We survived because we did not rely on an army, a land, or a culture for our survival. Armies are defeated, lands are conquered, and cultures come and go. But the Holy Torah is eternal, and its protection is eternal, and its people are eternal, so long as they remain its people, the people of the Torah. We were a proud people, the Jews, proud to be the custodians of the holy book of books, proud to live our lives morally and in dignity and conformity with the will of Hashem. We had no aspirations to be great warriors, to win Nobel Prizes or gold medals. We were satisfied that the Torah, through us, had introduced to the world religious and moral values of universal significance. We were proud when we prospered and we were proud when we were persecuted. We were proud especially when we were persecuted because we knew that we were not our persecutors. We were proud that we were not our oppressors. We were proud that we were prophets and not persecutors. But there were those others who were not proud. There were those who were jealous of the anti-Semites, their ruthlessness, their strength, their tanks and their planes. They were ashamed that the Jews were not as strong and as fearsome as the anti-Semites. They were ashamed that the Jew was a Torah scholar and not a warrior, not an athlete. They were ashamed that the Jews named their children Velvel or Yisrael Meir or Yoel, and not Nimrod or Omri. They were ashamed that the Jews celebrate mastering the Masechta and not a soccer championship. They were ashamed that the Jews celebrate that they would rather invent a new explanation in a Tosfos and not a new form of martial arts. They looked at the these Jews, in the same way the anti-Semites did. To them, the Jews were ugly, despicable, weak, and shameful. They looked at the Jews the way you would imagine a gorilla looks at a human being, weak, pale, ugly, useless. They were Jewish versions of the anti-Semites. They hated Jewishness, but they were Jews themselves, self-hating Jews against Jewishness. They hated Judaism, but they couldn't live amongst the anti-Semites because the anti-Semites persecuted them as well. Poor Koifrim. They didn't want to be Jews, and the Goyim wouldn't let them be Goyim. Whatever are they to do? Their solution? Zionism. Its goal? To destroy everything that makes Jews, in their eyes, so weak, so ugly, so despised. They wanted to destroy everything that makes the Jewish people so Jewish. They diagnosed what they call the Jewish problem, and Judaism was found to be the cause of the disease. But don't take my word for this. Let's let the Zionists speak for themselves. This week in the AIPAC convention, it was stated that the Jewish people should learn more about Vladimir Jabotinsky and Mikhail Yosef Berdyshevsky. Vladimir Jabotinsky was one of the founding fathers of Zionism, the man whose Zionist ideology is the dominant one today in this country, and who today's Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, considers his mentor. Vladimir Jabotinsky said, "What is a Zionist?" And I quote, "If you want to imagine what a Hebrew is, an Ivri, a Zionist, you can't compare him to anything. Instead, we have to use the method of Ibcha Mistaver," that's a quote. Take a Yid, a Yid, he said, and try to imagine the exact opposite of a Yid. Because a Yid is ugly, sickly, and has no Hajras Punim. We're going to endow the image of the Zionist with masculine beauty, stature, love, wide shoulders, vigorous movements, and bright colors. The Yid is frightened, the Yid is downtrodden, so the Zionist is proud and independent. The Yid is disgusting to everybody, so the Zionist should be lovable to all. The Yid accepts submission, and the Hebrew should know how to command. The Zionist should go over to the world, he said, and look them in the eye and say, "I am a Zionist." Jabotinsky is right. If you want to know what a Yid is, it is the exact opposite of a Zionist. Theodor Herzl, Yamach Shemoy V'Zachroi, didn't speak Russian. So instead of Žid, he referred to the Jews who reject Zionism as Marshals. It's a German racist epithet. A Marshal, a Jew who doesn't accept Zionism, he said, is not even in the same race as Zionists. And if Zionism does not succeed, he said, the Zionists have plan B. Quote, to shoot an arrow into Marshal's chest. They blamed religion for the Jewishness of the Jew. They considered Jewishness a problem that had to be eradicated, and they did their best to eradicate it. To replace religion with nationalism, to replace the Talmud with tanks, and to change the people of the book to the people of the bomb. So they obtained the land, and they declared it the nation state to the Jewish people. They created a language, and declared it the national language of the Jewish people. They invented Ivrit. They created an army and declared it to be the army of the Jewish people. But the Jewish people have no state. We have no common language, and we have no national army. They stole the word Israel, which is a synonym for Jew, and they stole the adjective Jewish, and applied it to something that it doesn't apply to at all, a state. The whole purpose of this country that we're standing in now, the whole purpose of the language that so many people speak in this country now, and the whole purpose of the culture that was synthesized in this country is to make believe, to create an idea that the Jewish people are another France, another Germany, another Italy. And even today, in the website of the State of Israel today, the State of Israel defines, Victor Lieberman wrote it, what is a Jewish state? What is Israel to the Jews? And he says, quote, Israel is to the Jewish people the same as France is to the French people, Ireland is to the Irish, and Japan is to the Japanese people. But not only did the Zionists decide that the Jewish people aren't a religion, we're not the people of Kabul, Turin, Har Sinai, we're another French, another British, another Japanese, but worse than that. At least the British only claim that the British government represents the citizens of Britain. At least the Japanese don't claim to represent anybody except those in Japan. Israel claims to represent all the Jews all over the world. I was born in America. My family's from Poland, 500 years they were there. Yet Benjamin Netanyahu comes to my Congress in America and says he speaks in the name of all Jews, including me. My mother's from England, my father's from Poland. I'm born in the United States of America, and in 1948, some people make some country in the Middle East and suddenly it becomes my country. If I don't like my president in the United States, I can move to Mexico or Canada or Japan, and I'm free of him. But because I'm Jewish, wherever I go, Benjamin Netanyahu claims he's my leader, and Israel claims to be a democracy. This sounds like a dictatorship to me, not a democracy. We didn't vote for him. He doesn't represent us. And worse, because of this, because Israel claims to represent all the Jews suffer everywhere in the world. Statistics show the greatest database of anti-Semitic acts in the world is here in Tel Aviv University in the Cantor Center. Every year they give out a report on anti-Semitism. Year after year, they say that whenever Israel gets into a war, whenever Israel gets into a controversy, whenever Israel gets into any problems with other countries, Jews all over the world suffer. Anti-Semitism rises. Jews in England, Venezuela, Chile, Greece, the United States, Canada are attacked and hurt whenever Israel gets into trouble because they say people think that Zionism represents Judaism, Israel represents the Jews, and the actions of the state of Israel represent the actions of the Jewish people. Because people don't understand that Zionism is the opposite of Judaism. And Israel has nothing to do with the Jewish people. Israel is no more connected with the Jewish people than the state of China or the state of Ethiopia. But because the Zionists give out this message that they're the state of the Jewish people, Jews all over the world are blamed for whatever Israel does. L'man Hashem, if anybody has Rahmanas, has mercy on Jews all over the world, please, if you're Jewish or non-Jewish, let the world know Jews all over the world are not responsible for the actions of the state of Israel. Israel doesn't represent the Jewish people. But Israel continues their propaganda. They continue their propaganda in the schools, here. They enlisted the educational system, the arts, the sciences, and even the streets that you walk on here are enlisted in the propaganda. Can anybody tell me here in all of Yerushalayim, when all the streets are named after Jewish personalities, is there one Moshe Rabbeinu street in all of Yerushalayim? Is there an Avram Avinu street in Yerushalayim? A Yitzchak Avinu street? Is there a Yaakov Avinu street in Yerushalayim? No, there is not. There's an Avram Stern street in Yerushalayim. And after the Jews went into Eretz Yisrael, starting from Bin Nun, every single biblical personality has streets named after him. But there is no Moshe Rabbeinu. There is no Avram Avinu street anywhere in this town. Even the streets they enlisted in their propaganda. But the biggest source of propaganda that Israel has is their army. The state of Israel has no right, no moral right. Forget about Judaic right. They have no moral right to draft people into their army because the Israeli army is different than all other armies in the world. Every army in the world, every democratic country's army in the world is a military to fight against their enemies, to defend the country, to attack. Israel's army is much more than that. Israel's army is an indoctrination camp for Zionism. Israel teaches in their army. What is Judaism? Not how to shoot. Besides how to shoot, they teach what is Judaism. The officer's training manual I have it in front of me. What is the identity of Jewish people? Is Judaism a religion, a way of life, or a constitution? The people in the land and in a Jewish perspective. War in a Jewish perspective. The Israeli army is a church of Zionism. Just imagine if any other country, say a Christian country, would draft people into the army and then require that they go through their parochial indoctrination, their education. And the people in the army are going to say, what your priests and your imams taught you about your religion is not true. The people in the army know what Christianity is, and the people in the army know what Islam is. And you're obligated, and every youth in the country is obligated to come and go through the religious training. Would anybody tolerate that? Only in Israel such a thing is tolerated. If Israel would just have a normal army and a normal state, get rid of Jewishness. Don't call yourself a Jewish state anymore. Call yourself Herzl state. No, you're not the army of the Jews. You're not the state of the Jews. You're another Bulgaria. We would treat it differently. But the army of the state of Israel is much more than just an army. It's an organization of shmat. Ben-Gurion said that the army's purpose is the purification and the cultural elevation of the soldiers. Suffice it to say that what they call cultural elevation and purification, we would give our lives to avoid. And don't believe them when they say that that they don't draft yeshiva guys into the army. Oh yes, they made a law that yeshiva guys are not drafted into the army, but they added so many loopholes and so many terms and so many conditions that currently there are dozens and dozens and dozens of Jewish children, yeshiva guys, HaChareidis-Chief, that are in jail because they refuse to go to the army. If you're in yeshiva, you don't have to go to the army, but they have a new definition of yeshiva. The yeshiva has to have a certain amount of people. If you go for the Torah, you don't have to go to the army, but if you miss a day or two, if you come late, then they come after you and put you in the army. And they don't go after those families of great kehillas, the kehillas that are represented in the Knesset here in the state of Israel. They don't go after the mainstream yeshivas. They go after those that live outside of Yerushalayim or inside of Yerushalayim in small yeshivas that aren't represented by big kehillas or members in the Knesset. They're going after the weakest of us. And they're going after thousands and they have thousands and thousands and thousands of targets right now. We cannot allow this to happen. No other country would allow this to happen. They're not drafting people into an army. They're drafting people into the Church of Zionism. To the Bachrim we say, Chazak, be strong. Never give up your religion and never give up your Yiddishkeit. Never allow anyone to make you into the opposite of a Yid. I cannot speak here the way I speak in Brussels or Washington or New York or London because far be it from me. I would never tell anybody to break the law of the land. They'll come and arrest me if I do. But I do invite everybody to join all the Jews throughout the world hand in hand in forming an unbreakable wall in front of the Sefer Torah so that nobody can harm it. To Hashem we turn and we say, you gave your Torah to us and we will protect it. We say to Hashem, your enemies are our enemies. And to the state of Israel, I have a piece of advice. I'm not one of your representatives, but I'm a Jew and I'm from America, and everybody knows the Israeli government bows to whatever the Americans say. My advice to the Israeli government is you have one of two choices. Either you recognize what the founding fathers of Zionism said, that Zionists are the opposite of Jews. You are a different a different people than we are. We don't belong in your educational indoctrination camps, and we don't belong in your army. Recognize that. Or, if you won't recognize that, your other choice is to build more jails, because you're going to need them. We will never give in.
שמענו דברים כלואים לעיניים מהרב שפירא שהבהיר לעולם כולו שהציונות אינה מייצגת את עם ישראל. להפך, הם שנלחמים בעם ישראל בכל דרך אפשרית. כל מטרת הוגי הציונות הייתה לשנות את עם ישראל, את מורשת ישראל. בדבריו הוא הבהיר לעולם כולו שהצבא הוא מוסד שמד. זה הצבא היחיד בעולם שפועל לשנות את האידיאולוגיה של החיילים. אין עוד כזו שפלות בעולם כולו. מטרתו של הצבא להיות כור היתוך, לשרוף את המורשת, לשרוף את טהרת עם ישראל. לא מובן מה הקשר שלהם לארץ ישראל בשעה שאינם מכירים בתורת ישראל, אשר היא זו שמנחילה את ארץ ישראל לעם הקודש, ואשר בעוונותינו יצאנו לגלות, ואנו מצפים לחזור על ידי הגאולה השלמה שתבוא על ידי שכל עם ישראל יהפכו להיות עובדי השם, לגלות את מלכות השם. אנו, כלל ישראל, כל המתאספים פה, המייצגים את תורת ישראל בטהרתה ובתפארתה, מצפים ומייחלים שהשלטון שהכריז מלחמה על עם ישראל על ישראל לא ימשיך להיות השולט בארץ הקודש, ובמקום